Picking up from where we left things off, Zenzi is faced with a new set of challenges and she has to go up against some more dangerous forces, but a new fate brings back her will to live in this piping hot season of Unseen. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm super excited to have you here. If you're interested in review and commentary videos, then make sure to hit that subscribe button before leaving today's video and join the channel so that you don't miss out on any of my posts. With all that said, let's break it down. The cliffhanger in question from the final episode in the previous season gets addressed, and this lands Zenzi in prison where her fate is sealed, and that is to pay her dues. But only after she discovers that she's carrying new life does she decide to join forces with Detective Laners, and they try to figure out the connection between Raymond, her late husband Max, OCM Bank, and the man in charge known as Andrew Hotting. Lufuno, who's always been a helping hand to Zenzi, is also assisting with providing information to Detective Laners about this man in question. Upon his introduction, Hotting is known to come from old money. However, they lost all of it, and now to regain it back, he believes that he has this duty of ushering the country into a new future. But there's a flaw in this method of his because he's taking away from the already marginalized. And now you might be asking yourself, where does Zenzi come into the picture? Well, he doesn't want her on the loose after his many failed attempts of getting rid of her, because he's about to sign a deal to finalize this transition, and one of the many people who was tasked with this was TK, and we find out here that she also has a personal grudge against Zenzi because she has taken something away from her as well. And let's not forget, she also has a target on her back after all of the things that she has done. Following up on Lufuno's leads, Detective Laners tries to find one of the board members of OCM Bank to try and snitch. And surprisingly enough, Jacob Butler, who's the CFO, was willing to comply with her, but he also knew that there would be dire consequences if Hotting was to find out. Ultimately, Zenzi knows that she has to go into hiding after being forced to escape police custody, and her place of choice is Zimbabwe, where she will be joining her in-laws. But before this can all happen, she comes across a couple of roadblocks, and being roped into all of this by association, Naledi also gets into some trouble and she has to step in to try and save her, and this is also how they reunite. And at some point they are forced to confront their childhood home. By this time they haven't been here in 20 years, so they're not even sure if their father is still alive or not. Turns out he is. They find him there and the tension was unavoidable. I could just sense the beef just by watching. They were not here for him at all, for all of his past mistakes, and in that also he tries to ask for forgiveness. He was just trying to rectify what he did, sharing that regret with them. At this point we know that she's a fugitive on the run, and so her dad calls the cops on her, and we also find out that he has a grudge towards Zenzi because her big secret gets revealed. Her mother asked something huge from her, and so her father is still blaming her for all of that. This also made Naledi look at her a bit differently. She was too shaken up by all of this, and this is how they also part ways. But it was not in bad blood because Naledi was still rooting for her, but it was just too much for her to handle. And then a ghost from the past re-emerges, and this took me by surprise, and it turns out that this has been the informant helping Detective Laners with this case. And an unusual partnership emerges amongst these opposing parties because they had a shared goal at this point. A friend of Lufuno's and public protector known as Don Mulewa was entrusted to be the source of help for Zenzi to try and bring this crime ring down, but unfortunately it turns out that she cannot be trusted, and it is at this point that Zenzi decides to take matters into her own hands to get the revenge that she so desperately needs. She was not just a passive participant who's just trying to survive. She's actively hunting these men down to get her revenge. And you also see that she was struggling with some abandonment issues because at some point she felt like her sister left her, unfortunately her late mother as well. So that's why she was so caught up in avenging her family. That was the only family, well, a family of her own that she could hold on to. And I started to see the weight on her shoulders she was carrying because of what her mother asked her to do. This is here where I realized that she can actually make the tough decisions. You can see the theme here is dealing with grief, but unfortunately these characters didn't have the time to breathe. Just when I think she's getting a sense of hope, then something else comes up, and then it's a tragedy after another tragedy that she has to deal with. We could go with her through all of the emotions that she was going through. So amazing performance. Also with TK, we kind of get a sense of her motherhood and we see how she's always absent. This is where I kind of saw her human side. Other than just being this tough person, she also had someone she cared for. And we see how her mother's also not in favor of the way that she's living. It turned out she was the love interest of one of the key characters as well, and I found it very interesting. I was like, what? So there was a lot of twists that I did not expect, and you kind of see that she also wanted to leave this life and start over. This deal with this organization, I feel like, was the last job and they were going to start over, and things started to look up and I was so happy for them. But again, when you think there's hope, then 2 seconds everything just falls apart. It was just too much to handle. I'm very sad with what happened to Lufuno as well. And I'm very disappointed, to be honest, at the fact that that book, at this point, it looks like it's not going to see the light of day. I wanted to really see where that would end up. I don't know why I was so intrigued by the book aspect of the story, but it really touched me. And when we look into Ruben Tron, who was part of Harting's legal counsel, you kind of see that loyalty was not a thing because he was ready to throw them under the bus if it came to that point. And him also wanting a seat at the table and having to prove himself to Harting, and at the end Harting labeling him as just a liability, you kind of start to see those cracks come to light because I felt like they didn't trust each other. And now Detective Morkel, he was also dealing with his grief and his regret as well, and that's why he felt like he also had to avenge a certain character. And this justice he was referring to came into question for me personally because there were moments where he had to overstep the law. So I'm like, what does justice actually mean in this world that they find themselves in? You could also see the division within the police force as well, because certain people in the group believe justice to be something different from another group of people, and I think it's a reoccurring theme that I've started seeing in these thriller series. A lot of the times the police are not on the same page. And the same thing happens for Harting and his organization as well, where amongst them they did not have trust. There was just so many loose ends. At some point Don Molewa actually started to question his leadership as well. So Zenzi made them look a bit incompetent amongst each other because they could not comprehend how such a ordinary person can cause so much havoc. We started to see his perspective and how he believes what he's doing is right. Now, I'm not condoning what he's doing because obviously he's this bad guy, but there were some traits of him that would be commendable, like being multilingual. He spoke Zulu at some point and I was like, wow, that's a flex. And we also saw a bit of him being a father as well. So you can see parenthood has been a prominent theme in the season. And there was a point where he let his guard down with Zenzi, but Zenzi did not return the same sentiment. Instead, she did not show him remorse. All of the actors did amazing, from the prison cast to the younger version of Zenzi. Everybody did what they had to do. The look and feel is consistent with the first season. I did see some people speculate that if there would be a third season, they would have to explore Don Molewa more, and Morkel, maybe he might not just let her go, and she also still has a target on her back. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions in that regard, but I'm happy regardless whether this was the final episode or not. I'm happy with all of that. It's just too much going on emotionally. This was a great season. I enjoyed it. I'm happy with how it ended. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and do let me know what you guys think. If you haven't watched it, please do yourself a favor, check it out, and I'll see you guys next time.